Hair DAO, a new decentralized science application which I just came across recently because of one of the research funding rounds that they just completed. I have a video here from the co-founders which I'm going to play in a moment. Afterwards, we're going to talk about some of the tokenomics and just give my overall thoughts on this project. But first, we need an introduction.
My name is Andrew.
I'm also Andrew.
And we're the co-founders of HairDAO. So let me start by sharing my screen. Okay. So HairDAO, network state solving hair loss. To start, let's focus on our large impatient patient community, the section we also call Why HairDAO. So Andrew and I have actually known each other since high school, where he was the unfortunate sufferer of diffuse thinning. Unfortunately, me and the other kids in high school were cruel, and we took to calling him patches, which I found really funny. That is until the next year, my first year at college, when I started waking up with clumps of hair on my pillow. It was at that point that I realized how profound hair loss could be. Not only do things happen, as simple as girls liking you less or something kind of funny like that, but it's also more profound where for me, it was really the first time I came face to face with my own aging and my own mortality. And that was a really scary feeling. So I think, as you can see in some of the screenshots we pulled here, most of our community members feel the same. I think people are very quick to brush off hair loss as a trivial cosmetic issue. But it's really deeper than that for many. Knowing what a profound and stress-inducing experience hair loss can be, Andrew and I decided to start HairDAO. The idea was to foster a community of like-minded individuals, those that were unhappy with their present situation and willing to do something to change it. I think HairDAO has an important role to play because when you look at hair loss in particular, there are three main challenges that the community faces. One, lack of innovation. Two, lack of public investment. And three, a lack of private investment. We'll dig in a bit more to those points in a second, but for now, let's go to the next slide. Regardless of the challenges I just mentioned, the hair loss community is resilient. If you close one door, we'll open another. As a replacement for the total lack of traditional researchers, hair loss has developed one of the largest, most dedicated, most sophisticated online communities. That includes people analyzing the literature to find new gene targets, but it also actually includes people testing new non-FDA approved treatments on themselves. There's a really intense biohacker community in hair loss that I think often goes underappreciated or unnoticed. But I think it shows, honestly, the passion and the desire people have to cure this condition. Now into the dismal state of modern hair loss research. This section will kind of dig more into the three main challenges that the hair loss community faces. So the first is just the current solutions are terrible. We have minoxidil discovered by accident in the 1950s while it was being used to cure hypertension. It's just really not very effective for most, despite what you might see in various marketing campaigns. Then you have finasteride discovered also by accident while it was being used to treat enlarged prostates in the 1970s. The side effects, it's a little bit more effective than minoxidil. The side effects are so bad, they actually have their own name, post-finasteride syndrome. So that should tell you all you need to know. That's a big risk just to take for your hair loss. People risk things like infertility. And then finally, you have hair transplants, which I actually got one because I was a candidate because I had primarily recession sort of on my temples, backs as a diffuse thinner, not even a candidate. You lose density within 4 years, which I'm experiencing now. And they're also just really expensive. So not accessible to the overwhelming majority of the hair loss community. The next challenge that we suffer from, and I think it's the most interesting and most relevant for HairDAO, is that because the NIH, who funds the overwhelming amount of early stage biomedical research in general, has decided to classify androgenic alopecia as a cosmetic condition, because they've decided to classify it as a cosmetic condition, effectively nobody funds it. And I think I like to quote Dr. Ralph Paus, who we work with here all the time, on this topic, and he says, if you suffer from something, it's the disease. And so who is the NIH to tell this massive online community who's clearly deeply affected by their hair loss what is and isn't a disease? I think the last thing to touch on here is that the hair loss is represented by the National Institute of Arthritis and Musculoskeletal and Skin Diseases. I think you could imagine how capital allocation goes when an arthritis specialist is trying to allocate capital to early stage hair loss research. It's just not very efficient. Then we have the private market capital flows to just touch on here. You have 61% of the current market is hair transplants. The market in total is $7 billion, which I think says something, given how bad the current solution set is, that the market's that big. People are willing to pay even for bad solutions. The thing that sticks out most with me here is that the distributors like Keeps, Hims, Row, they spend about 110 to 120% of their revenue on marketing while spending 0% on R&D, which would actually benefit their market and their customers. But unfortunately, innovation is not the most short-term profitable business model, although we believe it's the most value accretive long-term. And so they've opted to really not spend any of their quite meaningful profits on R&D. The result of all of this is that we just have a really bleak startup landscape. There's no real companies to hold your breath for in the space. And that's where we come in, HairDAO.
I think it's important to observe two key things here at the bare minimum. One, there's a massive market. $7 billion today in capital flows through hair prevention mechanisms or hair replacement mechanisms for people who are suffering from different diseases or ailments of the body which make them lose hair. Part of the reason why I grow my hair out is because I wanted to make sure that I got to experience long hair just in case I end up going bald later on in my life, right? Nobody knows for sure what's going to be the outcome of their hair. So I wanted to just secure my position while I had it. But we also can tell from the last slide that they had up here, if I can scroll back a little bit, that roughly only $5.4 million of research globally went into this market, despite $7 billion flowing through this market. So HairDAO, being an opportunistic bunch of people, two Andrews actually, have come together here to try and fill that gap and replace a major key in the market.
Thanks, Andrew. So if the first half is why HairDAO, then the second half is how HairDAO. Yeah, so our primary mission obviously is to solve hair loss. And there are really two ways we think we can do it simultaneously if we do it correctly. So the first is to empower both traditional and internet native researchers to discover new targets and ultimately new treatments. And the second is to grow the pool of researchers. So if we can convert more patients into researchers by providing patients tools to become researchers, and not necessarily, not everyone will become essentially a self-taught biologist, but even through just providing data and helpful information for the DAO, we think we can essentially grow the number of hair loss researchers significantly. And so the result, if we're successful, is a decentralized, vertically integrated pharma company that we think will be orders of magnitude more efficient than the current system. Looking at the current system today, fundamentally, there are two parties we really care about. They're the creators who create early stage IP, and then they're the patients who consume it. And then in between is a bunch of middlemen who take very high fees and really drive the patient and the researcher extremely far apart. So the first is universities are also tech transfer offices, and that's where research is created. And then the best research made at universities will be published in the best journals. The best published research will then advance to clinical trials, and then from there, the best drugs will advance to distribution, ultimately to the patient. Our job is to push the cost of all these middlemen to zero. This slide provides some more detail on how we're going to do that, but you can just read that later if you'd like.
Every single step of this entire scientific process, where they go from researcher to universities to journals to clinical trials, distributors, and then finally patients, is being disrupted. Each time they drew a squiggly line here between these two, every time there is a transfer of data between each one of these members, there is a slice of the pie taken by the member who's holding on to that data at that given moment. So it's adding friction to the system constantly. Literally every single time there's a transaction, you introduce not only risk, but friction and monetary leeches.
So what we view our goal is to essentially remove all these middlemen. So instead of patients, researchers, hundreds of middlemen in between, we think it can just be patients, researchers, HairDAO. Except that we're not even separating the patient and the researcher because they're actually both a part of HairDAO. So they're really no middlemen. It's a very circular economy that we think we've already demonstrated can be self-sustaining and ultimately lead to significantly more efficient, better research than what's going on in the current system, which isn't really a low bar, but we think we can improve it by orders of magnitude and meet a high bar. So what have we done so far to disrupt these people? So the first one, we execute our first IP NFT. The number one critique we get as a DeSci DAO is, oh, you're just going to get the worst deal flow because you're going to get the people that can't get funding from traditional people, but no one wants to fund early stage hair loss research. So we think we actually have a really good piece of IP here, but we'll find out over the coming months just how good it really is. We also have really strong community growth, over 1,200 Discord and Twitter members. If you look at our Discord community as well, I think you'll find that our engagement per user is extremely high. In tandem with that, we've grown a really strong media arm through our own podcast with Ralph as a co-host, and then also through essentially a monthly overview of the research and operations of the DAO, which our community of active participants both creates with us and we think really enjoys. And then lastly, in tandem with all those three, is we think probably the best hair loss deal flow in the world. Between what we get from the traditional world and what we get from our community, we don't think anyone else has the same level of what's going on in the space as what we do. And so when we're thinking about products, we really separate into two buckets. There's R&D and then there's tools. So just going through some of the R&D highlights just really quickly. So we have the study with Ralph that we funded. We have one more study with Ralph listed here.
You guys can go ahead and pause the video here and look more in depth at these studies if they interest you at all, or you can do what I did and come directly to their Discord and start doing research into more of the behind the scenes of the community. Their Discord is linked in their Twitter account, or their X, I should say, and we'll go through everything in a moment, but I want to talk about the token for a little bit before we actually start diving into the tokenomics and what kind of stuff they've actually researched. So HairDAO price chart, ticker symbol HAIR, which is kind of cool that they actually got that out of the 25,000 cryptocurrencies. I'm shocked that nobody else had taken that yet. You can see that initially they were trading around $2.50 and actually spiked all the way up to $20. They didn't start trading until March of this year, 2023. So it is a brand new coin, which had a massive rally and then a subsequent crash of about 70% there, 65% from what I can see. There's not many exchanges that are actually trading this trading pair right now. I believe it's literally only Uniswap, so they don't have any exchange listings. It's just Uniswap because you can trade everything on Uniswap if it's an ERC20 token. So they have their ERC20, so I went to Etherscan. They're also on Optimism, but for this purpose, we're just going to go through the Etherscan and go through their Ethereum-based ERC20 token. You can see there's a max total supply of 1.533 million hair tokens. There is currently 170 holders. You'll see in the video they said 230. That's down a decent amount from just the last 6 months. So people, it appears that they're either getting out or they're congregating wallets. Maybe one person or two people had a ton of wallets, and they're simplifying that down into just a handful of wallets here. I actually had to go directly to their Discord and sign up and kind of just review everything that they have listed here. I will say that their community is fairly active. Like, all of this talking that I'm scrolling through is just from today. So even all the way back up until here they switch over to yesterday. So it's a good amount of activity on their Discord. And this is pretty much the only place you can go for official links. So they have their website, which is kind of put together, but I would have enjoyed seeing a little bit more user-friendly. I know they're trying to focus on researchers specifically, but I mean, everyone enjoys a very simple website. That's just ubiquitous. You can come here and see all of the different links that they provide here. What I am intrigued with, what I personally wanted to look into more, is the tokenomics and the HairDAO history as it pertains to the hair token. I had to do a lot of digging, actually, because they did not list this document on their Discord. I had to go into like a help section of their Discord, and someone else had linked it from a previous discussion. So initially they sold 125,000 hair, which was 100% of the total supply at the time, in the initial auction, which was a fair launch where all of the founders got their initial coins as well. So I like that. I like fair launches. I'm a fan of that kind of methodology when launching a token because, like the name might imply, it's fair. And if you enjoy fair things, you definitely want to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. I go live Monday through Friday at 9 a.m., and this channel is focused entirely on decentralized science. So if you enjoy decentralized science, if you understand why it's going to be such a huge narrative in the coming years, truthfully in the coming decades, hopefully, then you'll like this channel as we continue to grow and explore all the different projects that are out there. So shortly after they had their initial distribution of everything, and the insiders here got a substantial amount of the token. They got about 37%, if my math's correct here, and then 63% was left for the HairDAO multi-sig wallet. A little bit down the line, they did a seed round and raised 375,000 hair, or $3 million worth of hair, to VCs and a couple angel investors, now meaning that there was 38% of the total supply left in that multi-sig wallet. They had 378,000 for the seed, the initial auction of 125,000, the broader community for 20,000. So this is locked up for haircuts. We'll talk about haircuts in a moment, but we'll talk about haircuts in a moment. The core team got 322,000 hair. 95% of that is locked up until February of 2026. And then BioXYZ got 105,000 hair locked up until February of 2024, which is in just 3 months. So I would be expecting a decent pullback come February, so right before the Bitcoin halving, give or take. Obviously, you can never 100% know with certainty, but I would assume that BioXYZ is going to sell off some of those tokens once they become unlocked, especially if the coin is to do any kind of rallying from here until then. If we go to the wallet where they're holding all of these funds to distribute for research, you'll see that they actually have almost $12 million, $11.8 million in this treasury. Most of it is in the HairDAO token, so $8.3 million. They have 2.4 million in Ethereum, 750,000 in stablecoins, and then some chump change through Lido staked ETH and the DeSci stablecoin. Personally speaking, I know I don't speak for everyone in a DAO, and the DAO gets to organize however they want to. I think it's really stupid for them to hold all of the coins in volatile assets. You should have it in stablecoins so you actually have a future as a project, but that's just me. They like these coins are locked up, right? So they have to have the Hair tokens, and I get that, but the 2.4 million in Ethereum is not a wise choice. Just from a pure business perspective, I understand there's a good chance Ethereum 10x's, and those words I just said look stupid, but you have to hedge yourself. You have to hedge yourself. So if people from the DAO are listening, maybe propose a change. I don't know. Take it with a grain of salt. You can see all of the different, this was in their roadmap. So they have all of the different sections. You can see what they have funded in the past. You can see different research that people are interested in. And you can see the haircuts where community members who are the most engaged within the DAO and within their Discord actually get rewarded with some hair tokens. It's a cool incentivization model. I think it's genius. And then the true roadmap here as they continue forward. Again, I'll put the link to their Discord and their Twitter in the description of this video. So go ahead and go over there and check those out if you so please. If you head over to their website here with me for a second, you can see it's very standardized. It's very basic. Pretty much all research websites, I really think that it's a missed opportunity. A missed opportunity in the sense that you could really change up your design and make it more appealing to the eyes. This is very cut and dry, research sterile, and I get that that's how most of the market operates, but I think that would be an intriguing way for people to set themselves outside of the traditional market and get more people involved. At the end of the day, the more people in a DAO, the more successful that DAO is, the more funding they have to go after research to hopefully prevent and treat hair loss. So do you want to stay sterile and standardized with everyone and look professional, or do you want to have a successful DAO? I think the answer is pretty clear there. I'm not shitting on the team here at all. I'm just giving my 2 cents as to things that I would see different. You can see home, so people talking, you can see the different researchers and their total HP, right? This correlates to those haircuts we talked about. You can see progress. They have targets for people to be focused on and citations. So it's really like a community-driven peer review research place. You have an army of 1,200 people running around doing peer-reviewed research and doing due diligence into finding studies and finding potential treatments. This is a powerful, powerful mechanism, just like those investors' Discord, which will also be linked in the description, where we try and scour the community, scour the cryptoverse for potential investment opportunities. HairDAO is one that I feel like is worth looking into. It is so small right now, sitting at about a $14 million market cap, I believe. Yeah, $14 million fully diluted market cap. Because many of the tokens are still locked up, this is going to be probably closer to half of that, but understanding that they will come out over time. Regardless, $14 million is minuscule. If you remember the target market here in the presentation was 7 billion. Now they will not be able to capture all of that. That's just not how any kind of cryptocurrency is going to work, but capturing a sizable chunk of that or disrupting that will in fact lead to a more valuable token in the long term. Your time is your most valuable asset. Hopefully this was worth investing into. Let me know down below. Have you heard of HairDAO before? Are you more intrigued with one of these decentralized science applications? And are you suffering from hair loss? Because if so, both of the Andrews here are right there with you, and I'm sure they can help. See you in the next video.